Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. We're back with weekly crypto news with Michael, our head of written research over on the platform, pumping out all that alpha daily. And you're fresh off a conference, Michael, so looking forward to diving into everything you learn over there.
Yeah, I've been on I feel like I've been on a crypto bender for the last like 7 days. It's been Coinfest Asia here in Bali. And so everyone from all around the region, around the world, has their annual pilgrimage to Southeast Asia. And I've just been back to back event after event after event almost for a whole week now. I'm cooked, but it's been cool.
Well, you've got to have your finger on the pulse to get all that alpha. So looking forward to getting into these slides. And we hit some new all-time highs on ETH and Bitcoin too. And markets had a bit of a pullback, but I don't think it's anything to be scared. All our risk on metrics and data are still suggesting, we're in a bull market, big picture. I had a really good chat with Philip again the other day.
Nah, all pretty healthy stuff if you ask me. Like that, not too concerning at all, but just more opportunities to get a slight discount. Um,
Fantastic.
All right, well, let's jump in. So yeah, this is what I was doing all of this week. This is Coinfest Asia. So it's a little bit of a different like vibe from some of the other like conferences like that people go to. This is very much like Bali style, like shorts and t-shirts and um, you know, promo girls everywhere and all this sort of stuff. Like it's I've actually noticed a little bit of a trend now because I've kind of gone and traveled the world a little bit over the last 18 months and gone to a lot of these conferences because obviously the media side of our research, I take the team around and we just divide and conquer and try and talk to every ecosystem that's there. And all of the big boys now don't bother with this stuff. So like every Ethereum sort of L2 sort of stuff, they don't come to this stuff. They go to the general purpose Ethereum DevCon stuff, but they don't go to these general purpose things. And I even noticed that now Solana seems to have tapped out. They're not interested. And some of the like low level chains that were very prominent seem like they've all sort of started to run out of money,
Hmm.
and aren't coming either. So it's that big mid tier. Dewey was the big one here this year. It's like they were the ones sticking all the money. But the biggest, obviously, mid tier bracket was Polkadot. They had a massive presence. Polygon's still kicking on, but I can see that there's been a bit of a drop off there. Yeah, so it's kind of like that middle glut that of projects, sort of like 10 to 50 that really dominate these types of conferences now. But yeah, interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, depends on your treasury size, as you say. And Sui's probably got one of the biggest treasury growths this cycle, so no surprise they're still there.
Yep, yep, very much so. So like yeah, we were able to go and see like a lot of the different side events that were on as well. It was just like villa party after villa party, like people, all sorts of different businesses and projects and protocols. So like really interesting stuff. But what's kicked on this week now inside Bali is the Polkadot Blockchain Academy is actually now here in Bali as well, where they bring not just Polkadot devs, but any dev. It's like I think there was like 700 people applied to it, and they narrowed it down to the top 100. And they've all started here in Bali now for the next 3 weeks. And this is like the elite of the elite that developers that come out, and they all get the main trainers from all different protocols and different networks to come and like train them all. It's actually been very interesting. I've actually been down there for the last few days as well, sort of documenting a lot of this. So yeah, there's a big, big, big developer cohort all here at the moment, and it's kind of timely because Gavin Wood, who for those that don't know the backstory, Vitalik came up with the idea with Ethereum, but Gavin is the one who pretty much wrote the technical paper for it and actually coded it all up, and then eventually left to go make Ethereum. I'm sorry, to go make Polkadot. And after a period of time, he stepped back and just kind of tapped out. And for 3 years, he's kind of just been a background developer inside the Polkadot ecosystem. But this week, he stepped back in as the CEO of Parity Tech, which is the main company that's running the Polkadot background. And so I think there's like a bit of a vision there that he has, and he'll be also, rumor has it, coming to Bali in this next week. So I would think that this is a very interesting development because he's like been very ETH adjacent still, even though he left the protocol. So kind of been involved in both protocols. He still speaks at like all of the ETH conferences and like very much so shares notes with Vitalik and Charles Hoskinson, who all were from that early ETH days. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to see where this goes for both Cardano, Ethereum, like Polkadot. They all kind of have the same genesis. But they were too early for that L2 scene. So anyway, it's what to watch this space, but there's still a lot happening in this part of the world.
Yeah, I guess the thing I like about that is that a few years ago there was that very tribal about which one was going to win, and if you like ETH, you're not allowed to like Cardano. So to see all those leaders getting
Yeah.
together, it's a bit like everything happening around the world. If we want to push crypto and decentralization and humanity, we've got to unite and work together against the centralization and corruption.
Obviously you can see why people would fight over like who can become the most dominant because there's a financial incentive. But once that sort of subsides and there's that Web3 ethos of we all just want a decentralized internet, well, all of these people need to all play together. And really we need to abstract the friction away from like what chain are you using, what chain are you using to just it's just Web3. Like no one cares where your website's posted anymore. It's
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's just the internet. So watch this space. Moving on, I guess in the broader world at the moment, this is a big one, I think, because MetaMask has now dropped their own stablecoin, MUSD. So we're going to have so many derivatives of stablecoins in the future. It's just going to be out the gate. And I think it's going to have to be, it makes me bullish for things like Curve, which are just going to be these like stablecoin swapping mechanism where you can almost very, very, very fit, like fee free change between these different types of stablecoins because there's going to be so many of them. But yeah,
have you had
this
a
is
look much into the mechanism of this and what's backing it, if it's centralized and all that yet, or not?
no, I haven't. I have not. This is something about which we're going to pay a little bit of attention to, but just a
Cool.
big announcement that's just only come out in the last couple of days, and so we'll track this and see exactly what it's doing. But I think that any of these big players that just want to going to get in on this treasury bond craze. I don't know if that's what it is or if they're backing it with crypto, but we'll probably have a write up on this coming shortly.
Fantastic.
Another big one as well. So more protocol upgrades over at Ethereum. Like I'm still very bullish Ethereum right now. Like I dabbled with a bunch of Bitcoiners. I went to a Bitcoin event this last week and spoke to some like pretty OG Bitcoiners, to be honest. Some guys out of Hong Kong, and like they were quite. It was quite interesting to see how bearish they were on every Bitcoin L2. There's still not a lot of love like from the Bitcoin community on like the idea of Bitcoin L2s. And so if the Bitcoiners aren't going to support Bitcoin L2s, I think that just means that Ethereum is it's more bullish Ethereum to be honest, because you and I are of this thesis that Bitcoin L2s will have this massive narrative drive, but if the Bitcoin community can't get around that, I don't know who does. Like it's going to be Ethereum.
What was the whale's reasoning? Like, why wouldn't they want to see Bitcoin scale and Bitcoin DeFi succeed on Bitcoin layer twos? Why would they want to see it on Ethereum?
I spoke to three main OG Bitcoiners that were like 2014, 2013 guys over the weekend, and they were all saying that it was mostly Fugazi and their decentralization and their actual connection to Bitcoin. So I'm not technical, so I don't actually know the technical prowess of a lot of these Bitcoin L2s, but I think that that's going to be the challenge for them to onboard Bitcoiners is to prove that they actually are decentralized and that they actually are permissionless and there's not
Yeah,
some one,
I've done a bit
yeah,
of a deep dive, as you know, into like that decentralization of some of these newer ones, Botanics, and just like the ETH layer twos, and they're starting off quite decentralized with the signers and validators, but it's obviously the plan to get more and more and to make it not maybe not fully decentralized as such, but definitely to have that more decentralization in future.
Yeah, I think some of the well this particular Ethereum upgrade, what it does is it just makes like Ethereum cheaper again for L2s. So I wonder if we've got like an imminent like scaling war if the Bitcoin L2s can actually sort of get to that level and get mass adoption, whether or not it's going to be a really, really big push. Because right now we see every institution and every like exchange creating their own L2 on Ethereum. The day will come when a big one will choose to do that on Bitcoin. And I think that's the sign that we all pile into Bitcoin L2s. Once you
Yeah.
get a big, like a Kraken or a Binance or whoever it is, says we're going to launch a Bitcoin L2 instead of an ETH L2.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing, a lot of the Bitcoin DeFi projects and layer two protocols we've interviewed have had devs that did a lot of work in the Ethereum space and then jumped back over into these to start building out either the layer itself or projects within that for the architecture. So it's interesting to see the whales have got a different view to some of these devs that have left ETH. So that's fascinating to watch play out.
It could be very much the case as well that a lot of these old school whales just get a bit fossilized and they've already made their money, so maybe they stop researching as well and they're not looking for change.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like there's not a much of a pressing need for the know. You never know people's reasoning. So interesting one here. So these guys at Multicoin Capital and Galaxy Digital, $1 billion going into Solana. So again, just the sort of the treasury company narrative, like coming in, people are just going to pump bags of these tokens because they can raise money in Wall Street. I guess this is the new sort of like treasury, sorry, the new Bitcoin Trust. Who was it? Grayscale, the Grayscale arbitrage that everyone was playing in the last cycles.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Wall Street buying tokens, buying shares instead of buying tokens, or buying ETFs instead of buying tokens. But it's kind of what's powering the market. And we do see a lot of narrative now that people seem to think that this will dampen maybe like a bit of a bear market crash. Like if we are to sort of still follow a 4 year cycle, it's not going to be like as, savage perhaps, because it is all Wall Street money that's propping it up.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
Um, this one's quite interesting as well. So this is of the same vein. So it's more like it's Van Eck here, more purchasing more like derivatives on Wall Street. But this is them purchasing Jito Sol, which is a fully liquid stake token. So we've seen them all buying tokens, buying ETH, but this is them literally buying liquid staked Sol and liquid staked ETH. Um, this is really interesting because this now has like that inbuilt yield, and I don't know off the top of my head what Solana yield is right now. I believe it's around 8% or something like that. It's still quite high, I think, compared to Ethereum. So another interesting one. This is going to be just like yield on yield again inside Wall Street, but again another 100% liquid staked ETF. So the derivatives just keep going out the risk curve.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of scary, this one. US Treasury's DeFi ID plan. Like, it's going to make things to the point where are we going to get a whole generation of people where you're just going to have to choose? Do you want to go down the full compliance, KYC, everything? Your DNA is now recorded on the internet so they can track everything you do, or we're going to have to become like some sort of Amish derivatives where you just refuse to use computers. Otherwise, it's the only way you're going to get freedom. But this is pretty spooky stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, like, just the mental gymnastics of calling DeFi decentralized finance while telling people they're going to have to use their digital ID, like, it just, the mind boggles. And this is ultimately, this is why we're doing, still pushing crypto, because this is our only chance, I think, to build out the decentralized internet, decentralized money, decentralized media, decentralized data. Like, this is just so important. So when you see stuff like this, it's really cringe.
This stuff terrifies me, and this is where you'd almost want to get out and march the streets as well, like to avoid this type of stuff. The fact that like the one tool that we all have to maintain sovereignty of our finances gets hijacked and commandeered, like it's pretty terrifying stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a bit of a fight this week between Wormhole and Layer Zero trying to buy the Stargaze bridge. So again, this is just more like centralization of the big boys inside crypto trying to acquire other users. So I do like the idea now almost of trying to support some of these like smaller protocols because we are getting very centralized in power. And again, these are all vector points that can be turned off to choke what's happening. And I saw an interesting comment. I don't have the tweet for it right now, but Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, was arrested a year ago, and he put out the tweet saying it's been a year since I was arrested. And someone in the comments had mentioned, well, did you only get off because you gave them a back door? And he said, I'd rather die. So I love that sentiment that, there are freedom fighters who are still making sure that the internet stays decentralized. But this is another example of big boys who are buying up the little stuff to, consolidate power.
Yeah.
Speaking of, World Liberty Finance is actually launching its token, I believe, in this next week or so, or the next couple of weeks. This is rumored to be something like a $25 billion launch. I would expect to see some sort of correction around this time period, either from the dump of early sellers or because of the fact that this is going to suck all liquidity out of the market as everyone tries to speculate and write it up. So if you're inside the market, I would be watching this because there will be market movement directly as a result of the World Liberty Finance launch. I'm not sure the exact date. I believe it's coming in the next week or two or three.
Yeah, huge opportunity for traders. As you say there, like, 700K followers, this is going to be big and probably launch at a big market cap. And then I agree, I'd expect it to have a pretty decent correction.
Yeah, Eric Trump's on the tour. I know he's traveling Asia at the moment, speaking at conferences and all sorts of stuff. So I think, yeah, he's gone full time crypto now. So yeah, watch the fireworks that happens around this one. Yeah, but all in all, very interesting week. good to get around like people in real life instead of just seeing people through screens. But yeah, the crypto space, it powers on. You can see there's a lot of money still around, sloshing around, and I don't think it has any signs of slowing down. Like I'm still allocating. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's never been more important with everything happening around the world. I think that's kind of maybe the next phase of this cycle, or the next cycle, or either way in the coming years. Like this is the battlefront for everything.
Yep, definitely.
Fantastic, mate. We'll keep pumping out all that alpha, guys. Head over to nuggetsnews.com.au for our free crypto newsletter, our paid research, or our high net worth investor services. And we'll chat to you again soon, Michael. Cheers.
Cheers.